Hey guys, I'm going to do a video real quick. This one in regards to UFC 283. We're going to run through the main card. Let's just get right into it. Starting off with Paul Craig against Johnny Walker. Now Johnny Walker's going to have a height advantage along with a reach advantage. He's a 6-inch reach advantage here over Paul Craig. He's going to be quite a bit taller too. But Johnny Walker has been about 50-50 since about 2018, 2019. And while he does have really good striking, very awkward striking, very hard to predict striking, I feel that it's definitely getting easier to predict what he's going to do, as we've seen his opponents in the past couple years do. But with Paul Craig has a very skilled background in jiu-jitsu, grappling, and we've seen him go to the ground with so many different guys while he's been outclassed on the feet. We've seen him go to the ground a lot and be able to get the finish or the win by decision just due to the grappling throughout the fight. And he's also got a win over Jamal Hill, who we'll cover later on in the video. But that's a pretty big win considering that he's about to fight for the title. I mean, an elite level grappler in the UFC's 205-pound division. And for this fight, I'm going to be taking Paul Craig. And up next, we've got Lauren Murphy against Jessica Andrade. Lauren Murphy is 8 years older. She's going to be also at a reach and height advantage, but we've seen Jessica Andrade in the past be able to get really close and inside the range of her opponents. And along with that, Andrade has also been able to neutralize just about any advantage that her opponents have been able to have over her. And while Lauren Murphy has been on a roll outside of her fight against Valentina Shevchenko, she's definitely at the later stages of her career. And Jessica Andrade is just going to have more power, more explosiveness. I see Andrade being able to get inside the distance and land big shots, get the takedowns that she needs, and possibly even finish Lauren Murphy. So I'm going to be taking Jessica Andrade in this fight. Now we've got Burns versus Magny. Magny's going to be at a 9-inch reach advantage over Gilbert Burns, but I feel that it's not going to matter much. While Magny has definitely been one of my favorite fighters in the UFC, he's definitely got what it takes to give anybody in the welterweight division a hard, tough fight. Burns has been on quite the roll outside of his last couple losses to the former champ Kamaru Usman and Khamzat Chimaev, and he almost beat Khamzat. He's much bigger in terms of body size, and I feel he's definitely going to have the strength advantage here. And based off of that last fight with Khamzat Chimaev, I think he may be a bit more explosive too. Now, Magny's going to probably want to take him to the ground, but Burns has a very good ground game as well. And I feel like just about any advantage that Neil Magny has, Burns going to find a way to get around that. So I'm going to be taking Gilbert Burns. Now, the co-main event, Deiveson Figueiredo against Brandon Moreno. Let's be honest, this fight should be a main event. It should have its own pay-per-view where these two guys main event the card, because this is the first and only time in UFC history, at least up to this point, that two guys have fought each other 4 times for a title too. Now, I've been riding with Brandon Moreno since he came into the UFC, really, not just because of his personality, but also the way he fights is very exciting. It's very smart at the same time too, and we've seen him be able to neutralize anybody and everybody outside of Deiveson Figueiredo. And the same with Figgy. Figgy seems to have no problem with just about anybody he fights, and if he does, it's not enough to cause him to lose the fight. I honestly feel like if these two remain in the same weight class, this is the fight that we're going to have to keep coming back to. Now, the history between these two, the first fight was a draw. The second fight, Brandon Moreno was able to finish Figueiredo. And in the third fight, Figueiredo was able to get a close split decision win over Brandon Moreno. But from what we've seen, I feel like Moreno has less struggle in getting what he wants against Figueiredo in terms of taking him down to the ground when he wants, and in terms of landing the big shots when he wants. And while Figueiredo, I would say, probably has the grappling advantage, I'd say Moreno for sure has the stand-up advantage. But these guys are both very well-rounded fighters. These guys are both warriors, and they have so much heart. But in the past, we have seen Figueiredo struggle with the weight. In the past, we've seen him come in kind of drained from cutting that weight. Now, I would say Figueiredo should probably just look to grapple for most of this fight. But Moreno is such a hard target to get down to the ground. He's so good and he's so dangerous. If you want to come in close, he's got the shots ready for you. And overall, I feel that Brandon Moreno has so much heart, so much skill. He's very well-rounded, a very complete fighter, just like Figgy. But I think that Brandon Moreno is going to come into this fight and win it. So I'm going to be taking Brandon Moreno in this fight. And now the main event, Glover Teixeira up against Jamal Hill. This one's an interesting one. Not the fight I would have expected to see if had you asked me about 6 months ago or so. But regardless, that's what we're getting. And to be honest, I feel that all signs are pointing towards Glover Teixeira. Glover's got more experience. He's got more wins. He's had the more difficult opponents, and we've seen him beat the more difficult opponents. We've seen him upset so many really good guys that a lot of people thought he would lose to. And when he fought Yuri Prochazka, nobody expected him to have even somewhat of a moment on the feet. We expected him to go to the ground for most of that fight. And there were moments in that fight where it looked like Glover was going to finish Yuri Prochazka. Now, Jamahal Hill's a little bit bigger. He's going to have a reach advantage, but not by much. We've seen that he's a very complete fighter, and we've seen him improve with each fight that he comes into. His only loss as a professional being to Paul Craig inside of the UFC. If you go look at that fight, he had to have his arm broken to lose that fight, and he still didn't tap. Got put in a triangle, ended up getting his arm broken, trying to get out of the triangle, continued to fight with a broken arm. Paul Craig had to switch from submission to looking for a TKO finish because the guy was still fighting, still trying to hit Paul Craig with his good arm. And when I say arm broken, I mean it was snapped. It was fucked. I mean, he could not move it from the elbow down after that fight was stopped. If you see, whenever he sits up after the fight gets stopped, it just kind of dangles in his lap. But we saw him rebound from that injury, and he's had quite a few impressive wins. And I feel that his motivation coming into this fight is going to help him a lot, because he said, whether I win the title or not, I just need to know if I can hang with these guys at the very best. I need to know if I'm the best or if I'm not the best. And regardless of what happens, I get my answer. Now, I feel like he's going to be the more explosive fighter. He may be the stronger fighter. But Jamahal Hill's definitely not going to want to go to the ground against Glover. And as for Glover, he can opt to stay on the feet if he wants, but I think the sweet spot would definitely be in the grappling. And like I said, while I feel that all signs are pointing towards Glover Teixeira getting the win here and becoming the champion once again, something in my gut is telling me to go with Jamahal Hill. I feel like we've got an upset coming this weekend. I can't quite determine why I think that. I mean, Jamahal Hill, he's very explosive, he's very good, and he's proven that whenever he wants to get on a guy's ass, he definitely can and will. I think he needs to come into this fight and really give Glover everything he's got really quick. Overwhelm Glover and possibly get a knockout finish early. Now, if this fight starts going to the third, fourth, fifth round, that's where I think Glover's going to pull away from the fight. But Jamahal will most likely be at his most dangerous within those first 2 rounds. And I've just got this feeling that Jamal's going to take the win here. So yeah, for this fight, I'm going to be taking Jamahal Hill. And so to recap for UFC 283, I'm going to be taking Paul Craig, Jessica Andrade, Gilbert Burns, Brandon Moreno, and Jamahal Hill. And I also want to give some love to my boy Terrence McKinney. I think he's also going to win his fight on the prelims. But as far as UFC 283 goes, it looks like that's all I got for y'all. I am working on the background. Hopefully I'll have a new background pretty soon. And yeah, that's it. Hit like, subscribe, and all that.